Hello Cave Dwellers, welcome into the cave for an unboxing video. Just before we dive into all the unboxings, I want you to know that the first Trash to Treasure series is underway for 2022. The goal this year is to dive back into those old videos that we were so distracted from when we were doing all of the DIY episodes. But during that period of intensive DIY, a wonderful problem emerged, and that was the problem of you guys sending more and more donations to the cave. Remember, 90% of what is in here, in these cabinets, on these displays, on the hands-on area for people to use, has been sent in by you. It's through your generosity that this all happened. But while the DIY was going on, I was receiving these donations and I was worried about them getting damaged, getting dusty. I didn't have anywhere to put them until things like the cabinets were built. So they just piled up and up and up. And today you're going to see just the tip of the iceberg of some of those donations. There are going to be a lot more episodes like this, either on this channel or on the second channel, as we work through that backlog and discover all of the amazing things that you've sent in and things that will become future episodes. So first of all, a huge thank you to everyone for sending all of these things in. And you will see today the subject of the Trash to Treasure series that's coming up, so look out for that. The first video of that should be next week. It's well underway. And the other thing I'd like to thank you all for is for purchasing the 2022 charity calendar. We've now sold them all. There are still a few left in the shop, but we've practically sold them all, and we've sent the donation to the charity. All sorts were the recipients of the money this year. Over 100% of the funds went to them because we swallowed the platform costs of selling these. One Click Print produced these at their own expense, so absolutely every penny that you bought these with went to the charity, plus more, and it raised over £5,395 was the exact amount that we sent them, plus perhaps a bit more if we sell the last few. So from this one little calendar made up of your pictures, we raised over £5,000 for a good cause. Thank you everyone for taking part in this. That's over £1,000 more than we raised for charity last year. So we're on the up and up, and you're doing wonderful things. It's great to see the community pull together to do such a powerful thing through just putting a calendar on your wall. Thank you, everyone. So if you're ready, I know I am, let's dive into the unboxings of the many wonderful things that you've sent into the cave over the last probably 10 months or more while we've been doing the DIY. Let's take a look. And before we do, we'd like to thank PCBWay.com for supporting our episode today. They aren't just about PCBs, although they do a tremendous job of that. They also offer CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication, 3D printing and injection molding. If you're creating, then PCBWay.com can help you bring your project to life. Get an instant quote now over at PCBWay.com, and we thank them for their support. Our first donation is a box of games sent in by Neil Gadsby. Thank you, Neil, and it's full of C64 goodness. This 1988 game is described as an American battle tank simulation, and like any good sim, it includes a keyboard overlay. I think I probably first came across these in those early Microprose games, and they were just brilliant, whether it was a submarine, a jet, or in this case a tank. I look forward to trying this out, and I'm in no doubt that it will be better than Accolade's acrobatic jet sim Blue Angels, which is absolutely atrocious. This has to be better. Also in the box is the legendary text adventure Zork, created in the late 70s for the PDP-10 mainframe and then later published as the first title of its creator's newly founded Infocom. I think it was 1980 that it came out originally, or it was published at least, and it was redistributed here by Commodore. There's a little manual tucked away inside there with all the commands to navigate the game, and it's an incentive, I think, whenever I get a game like this, part of a series, to find more of those games, to hunt them down and to get them on display, and Infocom games really do deserve their place in history. The next thing that caught my eye in this box is something very special, not only because I'm a big fan of the series, but I've never seen Ultima 4 in this box before. It was a bit of a mystery, so I looked into it, and it turns out that this was only released in Europe. It was distributed by US Gold, and it's something of a rarity. Inside you'll find all of the booklets and lore that you find in other versions, and a map, but the map is on thick paper. It's got kind of a waxy feel to it, and isn't a cloth map that you would find in other boxes. So US Gold is taking some cost-cutting measures here, no surprise whatsoever coming from US Gold. And we've even got the original receipt tucked in the box. This was bought on the 6th of November 1986 from Boots the Chemists in Peterborough. Yes, we went to chemists to buy our games in the 80s, there's nothing odd about that. Just like the Infocom games, And as someone who used to have a complete set or nearly complete set of Ultima games back in the day, this really does feel like something special and the impetus to grab even more of them. So thank you, Neil. Also in the box, we have signs of productivity. The graphics editor comes from Romic Software, a company founded in 1982, and they did make games, so who knows, perhaps this was the evolution of one of their in-house internal tools and they've turned it into a commercial product. I don't know, I'd be interested to find out more. And there's also Electrosound 64, which is a music sequencer designed to let you create tunes with the fabled SID chip and tweak envelopes and filters and everything else. And finally in this box, some more familiar cassette games, including Thing on a Spring and The Way of the Exploding Fist in lovely clamshell boxes, Daenerys, Cauldron, and the game every C64 owner had, Ghostbusters. There's also Soft Aid, which was a game released to raise money for the famine in Ethiopia. It had the charity single Do They Know It's Christmas on the flip side of the tape. Hectic from Mastertronic and Ghouls from Micropower complete the stack here, and there are a few other games you can see on the table there like Runarama, but we've got to move on to the next box, so thank you very much, Neil, for sending these in. And since sending them in, they've been tested, they've been cleaned, they've been wrapped, and they are proudly on display in the retro shop. The next box comes from Chrissy, and it's a big old box of bootleg arcade boards, and don't worry, it wasn't posted like this was hand delivered. These are boards with jammer connectors on the side for easy swapping in and out of the cabinets. Let's get them out and take a look at what we've got. The first board is Mortal Kombat, which is labelled as having graphical glitches. I've learned recently that my landlord Richard is an absolute genius at diagnosing and repairing arcade boards, as you'll see in an upcoming Galaxian repair video that we're working on. So I'll do my best, make cups of teas, take him biscuits, I don't know, whatever it takes to persuade him perhaps to help us to save these from becoming framed ornaments up on someone's wall. The second board is just a glorious city of microchips. There's barely any unpopulated space on the board, it's amazing. And this is a bootleg for Street Fighter II Champion Edition. A label on it tells us that it has no sound, which it doesn't sound particularly problematic in the scheme of things that could go wrong. But then again, which chip do you start diagnosing with? There's so many of them on this board. The mystery will need to be unpicked to get to the bottom of it, and hopefully we can do that. The final one is a double-decker board, and this is a bootleg of Sega's Golden Axe with the 68,000 CPU on top, and a label which says graphic glitches. On the underside you can see, again, yet more chips. This is usually because bootleg creators would need to recreate the behaviour of custom chips that they didn't have access to, so they would use more readily available logic to break that out, and the result would often mean that the machine didn't behave 100% truly to the original. And it often needed a beefier power supply, as daughter boards full of chips replaced a neat custom chip on the main board. So, 3 pirate arcade boards, all with problems, all ripe for a masterclass in diagnosing and fault-finding problems on them. I'll see if we can make that happen soon. Until then, thank you very much, Chrissy, for sending these in. Next on the table, a box from David in Coventry, and I believe this might be the first ever modem that I owned. I know there'll be plenty of you out there who are using acoustic couplers, Minitels, Prestel systems, all of that good stuff way before I was getting online, but this was my entry into the online world. It was a hand-me-down 14400 modem, and I used it for a short period to see what bulletin boards were all about before eventually migrating my way up all the way to a 56k modem and the World Wide Web. But the distinctive stylings of the Courier always stuck in my mind. It's like the Knight Rider or the A-Team van of the modem world, with that lovely red on black styling. And it was a serious bit of kit long before those horrible soft modems started creeping into the mainstream. This was a proper modem for proper modeming. Just look at it. That will bring back a lot of memories for some of you, I'm sure. On the underside is a command list and some switches to enable things like auto answering, and there's a volume slider up there at the top. Sweet modem memories, and there's a huge bonus that it comes in the box and there are manuals in here, so it's a real display piece too. Thank you very much, David, for sending this in. Real English apples, says this box, so what could this be, I wonder? It was hand-delivered by Philip McAllister, thank you Philip, and it's the topic for our upcoming Trash to Treasure series, so I won't spoil too much for you what's wrong with it, but I will show you what it is. It is indeed an Apple II, or to be precise, an Apple IIe, which is the third model in the line of Apple II computers, and it's not working. The E stands for enhanced, and it comes with some nice additions. We've even got some expansion cards already in here to give us more memory, more video modes, disk drive support, and a lot more besides, as well as paddles, disk drives, and a non-functioning Kaga branded monitor, which Philip and his father used to use. And if any machine in here needs to be given some TLC, I think it's this one. It's such a big machine in the US market that our many British 8-bit micros in the cave, it needs the cat amongst the pigeons, the apple amongst the British micros, to mix things up and show visitors what the Apple II was all about. We had them here, of course. They were just nowhere near as popular as they were in the US because we had so many cheaper alternatives to play with. So look out for this very soon in an upcoming video, and we'll try and bring it back to its full and former glory. What a machine. The next item comes from Dale Robinson. Thank you, Dale. It was just perfect for the cave because inside we found a stack of DVDs that will be familiar to readers of a certain magazine, and then a whole stack of binders, of course filled with Retro Gamer magazine. And not just any issues, this is a complete set of the first 80 or so issues all in their binders. It was absolutely perfect for the library area. Issue 1 dates back to 2004, can you believe it? And when you consider the consoles that we call retro these days, and indeed if you read Retro Gamer in the modern day, they have a section where they go back over news from a certain year each month. This month it was 2005, so Retro Gamer itself is practically retro, and who knows, maybe they'll be reviewing their own magazine in future magazines. One thing I did notice just flicking through this magazine, the style of it has changed a lot over the years, and within just the 6 or 7 years of the magazines that are in these binders, it really does start to evolve by the end of it into something that's more recognisable to the new issues that we see today. Thank you very much, Dale. These are a welcome addition, and hopefully you'll come and visit someday and see them in situ. Up next is a channel favourite. Who can resist a box full of Amiga games? Sent in by Steve. And there are some real standout titles in here, including Delphine's Future Wars, which I completed a while back on a Twitch stream, and if your adventure gaming is full of LucasArts and Sierra games, then do check out the Delphine range. Operation Stealth, Future Wars, Cruise for a Corpse, they've made some great games, and they've got some really nice graphical artists as well. I'm really pleased to have this. A game that's not so fondly remembered, WWF. Okay, it's not as bad as the later European Rampage game, but it's still not a great game. But it does have a neat bonus in the box in the form of the original VHS tape that came with it. From memory, I think that tape was only about 15 minutes long. And I can tell you that because, yes, I actually bought this. I spent my hard-earned money on this back in the day. The lure of wrestling and WWF was too strong for me, despite knowing full well it would be a distinctly average game. Other highlights include super skid marks, for one regular skid marks just aren't enough. And here's a movie game I've not tried. It's The Godfather. Now this came out in 1991 and completely passed me by. I never saw this in the shops at all. But I checked out a long play on YouTube and it's well worth a watch because the whole game has some incredible artwork in it. It's a side-scrolling shooter, a bit like RoboCop I guess, but at a much slower pace. And watching the gameplay, it just doesn't seem to come together very well at all. However, it is still worth a look just because of the gorgeous artwork, and the static screenshots really look amazing. It's just when it moves it all falls apart. Then there's another game of note in here, Round the Bend. This was a British TV show that was a bit like a Saturday morning show that linked between news, cartoons and music, all presented from a sewer. How that was adapted into a game? Well, it was the genre of the moment, a side-scrolling platformer of course. And like The Godfather, it's another boxed game that I don't remember actually seeing on the shelves, so it's very welcome as something a bit more unusual. Other games include SimCity, Sensible Soccer, some squished games such as Syndicate, but these are always useful in turning an incomplete game into a full package once again, so it's just an awesome donation. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for your kindness. Charging into the next box, this is a machine that has featured on the channel before thanks to a loan from the Swindon Computer Museum, but now we have our very own with a twist. This one is from Norway, and so it comes with a keyboard layout from that region, and it is, as always, stunningly good looking in its black brushed aluminium. It comes with a letter that reads, Hello Neil, when I first saw the Memotech MTX on the 5 Rare British Micros Computers episode on your channel, it was love at first sight, you and me both. I decided that I needed to get one of these for my collection, but these are rare finds and often expensive. To my surprise, one appeared on a Norwegian marketplace website shortly after I managed to get my hands on it at a fairish price. It came without a power supply, as these machines often do, the original one supposedly of exceptionally low quality. Unfortunately, I'm running out of both space and time for my many retro projects, and the machine has been sitting in my basement for almost a year. When you mentioned the MTX on your last unboxing video, I decided it would be better off on display in the cave in its country of origin. He then goes on to offer some advice on a more reliable power supply for the machine with some helpful links, and says I hope to see it on the channel. And see it you have, Martin, thank you very much indeed. And yes, this needs to go on display, and we need to investigate the power supply ideas that you've kindly shared. And up close, you can see some of those regional differences on the keyboard, and if anyone from the area would like to tell me the correct name for the A with the halo over it, let's call that the innocent A, and the A that looks like it's moving very quickly to the left, and there's a no entry character there, so leave a comment if you know what those are. Thank you, Martin, again, and what a beautiful machine. The next donation comes from Mike, and it's a sticker game combo double whammy. First in the package, I found this envelope of shiny Commodore approved stickers. I have no idea on the history of these, but they look to me to be period authentic rather than modern recreations. I don't know why, they just seem to look right, and I'll make sure I use them sparingly. And then triple wrapped very carefully in the box here is Surtex Wizardry Crusaders of the Dark Savant, which was really timely because it arrived not long after we got to interview Brenda Romero on the channel, who worked at Surtex, and she told us her story. So it just happened at a really nice time that I could hold this in my hands and enjoy looking inside it while the chat was still fresh in my head. The box is filled with 5¼ inch floppies with striking purple labels. Purple, always the colour of quality, isn't it? Or is that just me? The purple chocolates in Quality Street are the best anyway. That's not up for debate. Nothing in the way of feelies in this box, but it has some nice screenshots on the back that suggest that this is a first-person dungeon crawler type affair. So I looked it up on YouTube, and yes, it's a flick screen crawler with really nice artwork. It takes advantage of the VGA palette well, and it has a mix of fantasy monsters and some very futuristic looking battle droids with lasers. I need to find out more about the game, and I checked it out on Steam, where I found that you can buy it quite cheaply, but it requires a 1.5 GHz CPU and 1 GB of RAM. Now that gave me a laugh because the original specifications on the box are 640k of RAM and a 10 MHz processor. Welcome to the future. Thank you, Mike, it's very much appreciated. Next up, a box with a letter that reads, "Hi Neil, I've recently started watching your channel and it's great. Thank you very much. I've had these in the loft for a while and thought they may be a good addition for the cave." It goes on to say, "Can you work your magic on them? I hope you can put them to good use." And that's from Gornal Bell. Well, I hope so. Let's see what we've got here. It's all super well packaged, and it starts with a steering wheel, which will set the tone for this box because it's a Dreamcast branded wheel. I keep thinking I need to maybe set up a racing corner in the cave somewhere. Everyone loves a racing game, so this could really help with that. Maybe Sega Rally 2 would be popular. Also in the box, a shiny silver sack, and that can only mean treasure. In here we find a Dreamcast pad with a VMU inserted, and also a PlayStation pad. That's a DualShock 3 pad, so that's from the PS3 era. And then, very excitingly, in amongst all the various cables and power leads, it's a Dreamcast mouse. I'll need you to tell me what I can play with that to get the most out of it. I think Quake 3 is an option, but I'm sure other DC mouse games must be out there and available. There were plenty of first-person shooters on the system. And the next thing that I pulled out of the box was a bale of Dreamcast games. The box gets better and better, with games including Choo Choo Rocket and also Quake 3. I bet that plays really well on the DC. And there's a loose Half-Life disc. Now, Half-Life was never released on the DC. It was cancelled very close to release, but it was leaked in 2003, a almost but not quite complete version of the game. So this must be a fan-burned disc, and that would be really fun to try out. Hidden and Dangerous, I played that a lot on the PC. And Sonic Adventure, that was the first game I ever played on the Dreamcast. And finally, Smash Each Other in the Face 'em Up with Ultimate Fighting Championship. I've never played it, but I already know that it would be better than WWF on the Amiga. It's a fantastic Dreamcast starter pack so far, but dare I dream, what might I play these games on? Well, in the next parcel is not what I was expecting. It's a PlayStation 3. Quite whether this is destined to be a donor machine to fix up another, or if it has a life of its own that we can find in it, I don't know. But either way, it's useful, and it is the first PlayStation 3 in the cave. Now, I don't know if PlayStation 3 is considered retro yet, but I have got quite a library of games because you've been able to pick them up for 50p to £1 in the charity shops over the last couple of years, so I've been collecting them, but its day will come when it is officially retro, and no doubt games will be more expensive to get a hold of, so that's why I'm collecting them now. The next package is more useful for loading up our games bundle. It's a Sega Dreamcast, yay! And this makes me happy because you'll remember we made that Ultimate Dreamcast last year with all the tricked out mods. I made that with Mark on the channel, and I'm really sorry to say that it was lost in Mark's house fire. So to have a Dreamcast again makes me really happy. Even with that slight yellowing, I'm sure we can sort that out. And there's even more, a real icing on the cake in this box, because to go with our mouse, to go with our Dreamcast, to go with our games, it's an official Dreamcast keyboard, completing the setup and begging me to play some Typing of the Dead with it. And there it is on the table, and it excited me so much seeing it laid out there that I had to test it there and then. So I grabbed some displays, and with the cables I was able to test the Dreamcast out on this little TV. The only cable I had for it was a VGA cable, and this TV has a VGA input, hence why I'm using it. And Sonic Adventure loaded right up. So aside from a clean and possibly some retro brighting, this Dreamcast is in perfect working order. Thank you, Gornall, for this. On the topic of TVs, I made a few pickups as well. Firstly, I popped over to Wales to get this mammoth 32-inch Sony Trinitron from Alex Grant. Thank you, Alex. I could just about afford the 24-inch version of this TV when it came out, and I thought I was lording it up, but this thing is huge. It's in great working order, as is demonstrated here with Gran Turismo 3 on the PlayStation 2 Slim. It seems crazy, but we're actually running out of space to set all these things up in the cave, to at least set them all up at the same time in the main cave area. And I think we need to seriously consider getting the secret arcade area set up without the expensive arcades at this stage, but to give us some extra gaming room so we can set these systems up on more desks. I'll figure something out. Give me some time to think about that. I also collected this Philips Space Helmet TV at the same time. Now this is popular with retro folks, I know, because of its quirky looks. It's called the Philips Discoverer, and it's not the most practical because it only has an aerial input in the rear, so there's no SCART sockets or anything like that. And it's had a bit of a hard life. That visor needs a lot of persuasion to come down, but it does eventually. And I can't put it on display yet because those power cables are actually completely exposed, so that needs taking out completely and replacing. But with a bit of fixing up, in the right setting, with the right machine, this will really stand out as a nice feature. The next big box which I'm opening up here with a metal ruler for some reason, I must have stopped trusting myself with knives at this point, and it arrived hot on the heels of our Atari ST restoration last year. Inside, we find some ST format magazines, a publication I'm keen to collect to balance the Amiga format side of the library, so these are most welcome. And there are some games in here, including Chaos Engine, which we used as a test game in that ST series, and Frontier Elite 2, the game that every Amiga owner wants to show off their accelerators with. Well, now we've got it on the ST. Checkmate, Amiga owners. There was also some hardware in here, a SCART cable and that very distinctive Atari mouse, and a zip stick, which feels very nice indeed. There's nothing sloppy about the throw on this stick, and it's a fine peripheral up there with the Competition Pro. And just recently I managed to find the box, the cardboard only, just the box, on eBay for a zip stick, so when that arrives I will pair the stick up with the box. And then, of course, taking up the bulk of this box, no prizes for guessing, it's an Atari ST. A 520 STE to be precise. The E for enhanced, just like that Apple II. E is always for enhanced apparently, and it was released in 1989. The STE introduced a larger colour palette, a blitter chip, a new PCM audio chip, and also SIM slots so that RAM could easily be upgraded. Suddenly, the Atari ST range in the cave is expanding, as indeed are some other Atari models, to the point where I think we're going to need a dedicated cabinet just for the Atari things, so I'll need to organise that soon. Thank you, Colin, for your kindness, but it wasn't the only ST that arrived during the DIY period. Another box came in from Jeff Buckingham, and it contained another system to expand our ST range, with the mouse and a copy of Gunship. And it's already unscrewed, so if we take a peek inside, we can see that there's a replacement floppy drive flapping about in there. But also included in the box was a Gotek floppy emulator, so we could slip that in with the USB stick hanging out the side, or we could install another Ultra Satan in this one to have a hard drive in it, like we did in the Restoration series. I don't know, we'll figure out something to do with this, but thank you very much to both Colin and Jeff for bringing more STs into the cave. The next box comes from Ash, and it's a mad box of things. I just didn't know what was going to come out of the thing next. So here are some of the highlights for you, and thank you very much, Ash, for all of this. We have the notorious Action Max VHS-based game system. I'm sure you'll have come across reviews of this thing on YouTube. You basically put a sensor in the corner of the screen, and then a flashing light on top of your TV, and then you just register hits when you shoot your light gun at the screen as a video plays. There's no control of the VHS video, of course, it just plays regardless of what you're doing, so you get to the end of the video and you see how many points you have. It's as linear as it sounds, and only 5 videos were ever made for it, so it wasn't a success, it's not particularly good, but it is an interesting footnote in gaming history. Next out the box, we often talk about obscure British micros in the channel, so try this one on for size. This is the OPD, or one per desk computer. And yes, that is for a telephone handset on the left. The clues are all there though as to what it is. There's 2 slots on the top, and those are micro drive slots, the very same developed by Sinclair. And underneath is the Sinclair logo, because this is in fact a Sinclair QL shoehorned into a different case with a telephone. It was jointly developed by ICL, Sinclair and British Telecom, and it was also sold commercially as the Merlin Tonto. And as it happens, there's also a Tonto in the box, so our OPD is not a Lone Ranger. Designed to be a kind of all-in-one micro modem solution to connect to the world and conduct your business, the only thing it's really missing is an ashtray. And digging into the box further, I did find the handset, and it looks like a dual ROM pack for ROM-based software. A future episode, perhaps? From 1984 to something much more modern, out of the box came an Oculus development kit. Now, if this doesn't scream future museum exhibit, I don't know what does. The ushering in of what I'd probably call the second push at VR in the mainstream, after those failed attempts in the 90s. And this kit looks to be complete and hardly used. The headset's in there, the cables, and the carry case, that's the icing on the cake. It's a really cool item, thank you Ash, and I think its relevance will probably become more important as time goes on. Also out of the Ash box, a Toshiba MSX with the plug cut off. I don't know what condition this is in, but while we're on the topic of MSXs, let's just cut away to another donation briefly, and this comes from friend of the cave Tim, who's donated a Sony Hitbit, so another MSX to go with the collection. I think we've got about 5 in the cave now. And alongside that is what looks like an automatic gear stick. It's a joystick that is a Sony joystick to go specifically with that Hitbit. And it kind of reminds me of another one that you see sometimes for the Sega Master System. They had one that was shaped like that. What inspired someone to shape a joystick like that, I'll never know. But it's a fun thing to look at. Back to the Ash box, we've got mini camcorder sized writable DVDs, a box of 64K DRAM chips, a DMX Operator 2 rack mount controller, and more bits for those OPD computers. What an interesting box. I really enjoyed the mystery of what might come out next with this one. Thank you for sending it in, Ash. It was the creation of the Cave Library that inspired many of you to get in touch, it seems, and send magazines to help out, which has been amazing to see. So thank you to everyone, including Amiga for Mortals, Martin Partridge, Chris Scott, Gordon Crichton, Aaron Climas, Darren Weatherlit, Rob Taylor, and Dale, who sent those magazines earlier. Computer and Video Games magazines, or CNVG, were in this box, and these have done well to survive because this wasn't produced on premium, thick, glossy stock. so you often see them all torn up and in a bad condition. And at just over £1 an issue,
Hello, cave dwellers.
I think that's to be expected really. We've got some really nice examples, however, in this box, including this July 91 issue, which still has the free stickers on the front. These are just what I need to brush up on my console gaming history while I was too busy with my head in a micro in those years. And another box reveals yet more, as well as a young Alan Sugar on Your Computer magazine. Right there, Alan. And yet more stickers. These ones have holograms on them. I mean, what kid didn't rip the stickers off of a magazine and put them on their bed headboard? It was the first thing you did as soon as you saw a sticker on a magazine. These poor, unloved, unused stickers. So all of our magazine donations really do help to fill up the library, and there is plenty more room for more. I've been buying Crash and Your Sinclair magazines recently. They're quite expensive ones to source because they're very collectible. But we're getting a good variety here now, and plenty for visitors to come and read. Thank you very much to all of the magazine donors. Okay, a quick fire round now, not because I'm any less appreciative of the donations than others, but because we have so much to get through. So, huge thanks go out to Was for a selection of Spectrum games and cover tapes. These went straight on display in the retro shop. Zalia for this Trevor the Turtle plushie, don't make him angry, and a couple of games for the Amstrad and C64 which seem to be sealed like new. And because he saw me mention the nurse didn't give me a sticker when I got my jabs, he sent me a 1.0 and 2.0 sticker for the respective COVID jabs featuring our favourite retro antivirus face, Peter Norton. We're going to need a 3.0 sticker now, however. Peter McElroy sent in a box of games for the cave, some really nice Amiga titles, including a game that's often heralded on the 8-bits, Exile. And it got a lovely 16-bit revamp on the Amiga. We also have Syndicate to go with that Squash Syndicate that we had earlier, so if it's missing anything, we can make sure this is complete. And Chopper Game Thunderhawk. But underneath all of those big boxes were some nice CD32 treats, including the versions of Diggers and Oscar and Dangerous Streets and Wing Commander that were bundled with the CD32 originally. And digging deeper, we also find Microcosm, which was an FMV shooter through the human body, and Chaos Engine. And it's on the Chaos Engine CD that we see these are the 6 games that were included in the Spectacular Voyage CD32 pack. So we've got the full spread, the full software bundle to reunite with the CD32. Nice. Thank you, Peter. I was very kindly gifted not one but 2 C64s over the year. One came from Matt and Ben Thompson, and we'll just read their letter here. It says, "The cave is looking fab. Congratulations to you and the team for all your great work in making it happen." Thank you, guys. Please find enclosed our C64 collection. Really appreciate you giving it an exciting new home. It's had quite a life, especially after my brother accidentally spilled coffee over it. I've been there, I know how painful that is. But thanks to a family friend named David, it was fixed up using what we were told was a donor part from an old VIC-20. It went on to provide us with many hours of fun. Hopefully after a good service it can give many more hours of enjoyment to visitors when the time is right for them to come to the cave. They go on to say how Daley Thompson's Decathlon likely destroyed the joysticks, so they're not included. And hats off to anyone who can get past level 1 of Green Beret. It's incredibly tough. Sure is. The box includes a treasure trove of wonderful games, including Everyone's a Wally, which had that catchy music single on side B. And all of these games I've checked over, cleaned if needed, wrapped for people to enjoy in the recreated shop and put them on the shelves. There are some really nice clamshell boxes in here too. And budget titles such as 180 Darts, which I used to play a lot on my Amstrad. I'd watch darts on the telly in the form of TV show Bullseye, and then rush off to my Amstrad for a game of arrows on the computer. The complete Commodore 64 is an eye-catching addition to the library, and I love that cover art. I'm so used to seeing boring computer technical books or the black and yellow of the For Dummies covers these days that I miss those crazy futuristic scenes that the books like this used to promise us. The machine itself is in wonderful condition cosmetically. It's a bread bin C64, doesn't turn on, and it will need a service, of course. I think, given the joy that it gave Matt and Ben, And it's so clear from the way that they've entrusted it with us and from that letter how much joy it really did give them. It needs our full attention to get it working, to display for others and to let others enjoy it in the way that they did. And the other C64 came from a long-time supporter of the Cave. It's Neil Gadsby, whose name we heard right at the start of the episode. I think either he sent them separately or the boxes became separated as I was opening them. And this box has a C64 with yet more wonderful games and accessories. We can see from the tape on the box that it was sold by high street retailer Woolworths. May they rest in peace. And this too has had an exciting life. If we look on the underside, there's a sticker that shows it was displaying nothing on the screen in July 1989 and it had to be repaired. We've got the PSU there, also with a repair sticker on it. The repairer very slap happy with their stickers. And there's the telltale signs of the plastics reacting against each other as we so often see, so we'll want to bag that up and keep it separate. And there's lots more besides in here, including a Conic Speed King. That was one of those handheld joysticks, a bit like the Navigator. That was another example. And it's nice to see it in the box as well. We'll need to take good care of that. A box of games includes some real gems, such as Jeff Minter's Sheep in Space. There's Staff of Karnoth there from Ultimate Play the Game, and lots more besides, some with the original receipts tucked in the box. And this unusually shaped game called Quake -1 by Monolith Software. I don't know why they chose this odd elongated box. It looks kind of like a pack of pencils to me, but I like it. Funnily enough, with Quake in the name, it is actually a first-person shootery game of sorts. I've not played it before, so I need to spend more time on it, but it's certainly quirky. Neil, Ben and Matt, thank you again for the C64 goodies. They will be well looked after, I promise you. Okay, let's do one more item in today's unboxing then, and this box was kindly sent by Jim Traskopoulos. One of those, I hope so, Jim. Sorry if I've massacred your name. And his wife, who remains nameless. But thank you to Mrs. Traskopoulos. It's a good name to say out loud. Anyway, on opening the box, you might think we have a laptop of some sort here as we find a 3Com network card, but you'd be wrong. Tucked away in here and all safely wrapped up is an Apple Newton Message Pad 2100. You know, over Christmas, a quiz came up in one of the family games we were playing, and the question was, what was Apple's first tablet computer? And the answer on the card? The Apple iPad. It nearly ruined my Christmas, let me tell you. Tables were flipped, family members were disowned, and I demanded my point when I said the Apple Newton. Anyway, this thing is loaded up with all kinds of extras for it, which we will test out in just a moment. And in the box, by handy coincidence, is also a Dreamcast memory card that can go with the Dreamcast items. And at the bottom of the box are some manuals and a t-shirt for the Progressive 040. Now, as it turns out, Jim used to be the director of tech support for Progressive, and they made all kinds of things, including 030 and 040 accelerators for Amigas, hence the t-shirt. Let's see if this works, shall we? Jim says this is the last model that was produced, and therefore the one with the most memory, standing at 8 megabytes as standard. And sure enough, it sprang into life and it worked perfectly. I used to love devices like this. Some of them worked brilliantly, and I dare to say the early ones, which operated largely offline, would make us far more productive than the later ones with online connectivity. No Netflix here to distract you from your work. Thank you, Jim, and I've added this to the display of handhelds in the cave for all to see, but that's not to say it won't come out and be turned on so that people can enjoy it on open days. What a selection, hey. Thank you again, everyone, for sending these things in. It's incredibly kind. I'm always humbled by the things that you send in and the generosity and goodwill in which you send them in with. And I said at the start, it's the tip of the iceberg. It really is. There's another 40 or 50 boxes waiting to be opened and more coming in every day. So my question to you is, would you like these episodes, these 40, 50-minute episodes of unboxings, or would you prefer I just unboxed one a day or 3 a week or something like that on the second channel and just shared them in maybe even a more of a rough format using my phone to get right in the box, just so that we can unbox them share that experience, and then get them into the cabinets and into their new homes? Or do you like this more edited format where you see them all at once? I'm happy to do either. Just let me know what you fancy. As always, thank you for your generosity. I'm looking forward to starting that Trash to Treasure. Well, I have started it, editing it up and sharing that Apple II Trash to Treasure with you next week. It's a fascinating machine and it looked gorgeous on some of the displays we've been testing it out on. Stop spoiling it, Neil. No spoilers. Okay, take care everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.